be very helpful.
Oh, yeah. They think it's like school or something.
I know, right? Afraid to get called on. Yeah.
Well, I always blame her for the call.
I
love.
Everybody. Fish on there.
What are you in command? Of course. No. What command is that?
Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah. Command had a little lunch.
Oh, no, I know. Well,
I would say it. How are you doing?
Awesome.
Really?
That's good. Hi.
You're ready.
Activity coaching. Yep, I was thinking something. Okay. You never know. This day and age, you just don't. Okay.
Oh, I think I turned the volume down at some point.
We have a clicker.
Turn on. Share browsing. What the heck is that? I don't either. Yes, you got this right here. This is your, and then you should have a clicker. That's
Oh.
okay.
Oh, there's only like 4 slides.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So excited.
You guys are so adorable. I asked you to move this way. Okay, I don't know. You did move up, I'll give you that one. But I need to be able to see.
You did do that.
Awesome. This is what we're gonna have?
This is what we got.
Awesome. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Susan. I'm with Senior Care Authority. I'm a person of many hats. But senior health is my biggest thing that I do. So let me ask, how many of you have aging parents? Yeah, sorry. And how many are kind of getting to that point where you're kind of getting concerned?
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm with the Senior Care Authority. We are a franchise who provides placement services. I got into this whole thing with my own mom. I had to find a place for my mom. And it was a hard thing to do. And I had to do it going blind because she couldn't see any of the places. Because she was in Texas and I was in Colorado. So I had to, I tried to bring on a placement person, and that person only showed places that they had contracts with, which wasn't a whole lot, and it didn't give me a good sampling of what was available. So I did the work myself. I just made the phone calls. I found out what was going on, and anybody who's had to go through that, just time. Yeah. I see a couple people shaking their heads.
Especially from other states.
Yeah. Well, especially when they're in another state. And so I got into this business to try to be that person that can be like a one-stop shop for a lot of things. Because now I've been doing this for 8 years. I started in Colorado. I came to Ohio in 2020 to help my own mom's brothers. My mom passed away in 2013 from cancer, but she has 2 brothers left here. And so I thought I'll come here, spend time with them, and be a resource. And I've ended up being a resource for my aunt's brother and my uncle's wife's, sister, and it's just something that's carried on and on. So yeah, so that's basically how I got started in this. this business. And I love it. Working with seniors, as you know, is just really a joy, and it's fun to work with them. Sometimes it's challenging. Trying to get decisions, or if you've got somebody who's having some memory issues, or if they're if they have dementia, they're starting to go into what we call sundowning, or and you haven't been able to get that diagnosis from a neurologist. You've got a lot of things ahead that can be challenging. So what we're able to do is we're able to help you navigate a lot of this, provide a lot of services. I have people that do care. They actually, if you're out of state, then they can help organize the care, take doctor's appointments, keep a record of everything. They can help with a lot of that. I've got people that can do fiduciary responsibilities, that can help your parent if you find that they're kind of having some issues. Especially if you got a lot of siblings involved and you don't want people getting mad at each other. Having a fiduciary to help you with bills and to manage the finances is really highly recommended. Of course, people to help downsize and to, talk them through that, talk them off the ledge sometimes, because I see head shaking, had that happen too. So those are some of the things that we can do. Now I have a handout here, and I realize it has some Colorado information on it, but I think it.
Do you want me to pass this out for you?
Yeah. So this information here is a little bit of what to expect. So if for some reason, if you wanted to keep your parents home, there's some cost involved in this, and keeping them home versus, obviously taking them to someplace. And a lot of people are, I'm going to die in my home. Well, I'll tell you that the number one killers of people is loneliness and not eating right. Yeah. And falls can definitely make that harder. And they'll never tell you when they fall. Although something happened. So just to go through this a little bit, you've got in-home care. There's two different types of in-home care. There's non-medical and there's medical. Non-medical can do all the stuff with ADLs, or what we call activities of daily living. So they can help with, helping them get dressed in the morning and go to the bathroom, feed them, clean the house, do any kind of a thing that is not medically involved. That food, they cannot do meds. They cannot administer meds. They can give reminders. If you've got a pill box that's already set up, and say, John, don't forget to take the pills. And make sure that they take them and watch them take them. They can't touch it. Medical care is medical in-home care. They can do everything else. They can do, administer medications, do wound care, anything that requires some kind of medical attention. Next on the list is independent living. Who all seen an independent living? Awesome. Independent livings are a great place. Most would say they're a little expensive depending upon what they provide. Most independent livings, they provide, they get an actual apartment that has everything in it, stove, fridge, everything they would need to live everyday life, right? And they can provide food. There's some that don't provide meals, and there's some that do. Some only provide one meal per person, and they can buy extra, buy packages to get extra meals. But at least they're eating, right? They're being watched. Now, there's no oversight in independent living. You're kind of relying on people like the neighbors and stuff, just trying to kind of keep an eye on them and let you know what's going on. Get to know their friends and say, hey, can you tell me if mom has an issue? Sometimes they'll do that. Sometimes they'll go with your mom and say, I'm not telling them anything because you're going to try to put her someplace else. So, there's some things to, just kind of finagle a little bit about how to handle that. Does anybody run into that? Not yet. You have? What happened?
personally and professionally, I worked at a retirement.
Oh, really? Okay, so you've seen it. Right. All right, well, then the next thing that you have is assisted living. And assisted living is gonna give you a lot more oversight. You're gonna get a lot, they're gonna have care typically included, base care, and then pay more for, based on the kind of care they need, right? So that could be, if they need help with, reminders, they'll usually include that in the price. If they need help getting to the dining room to eat, if they need help getting places. If they need extra care, they need somebody to, do standby shower with them or help them with the shower. Somebody that needs to help with the toileting. Then you're kind of, you're getting into a lot more, but this is where they can help out the most. So independent living, you can bring in home care, but that's an additional cost on top of the independent living. And it becomes very cost prohibitive. Because it can cost more to bring, somebody in, even on non-medical care at $25 to $35 an hour that is not covered by that.
What isn't covered by that?
Everything.
I mean, I know it's an open-ended question, but so as real estate agents, like I have a client now in her house, I just got it finally, it's under contract, but she's 80 years old.
Yeah.
So a lot of us are coming up against maybe not our family, but
Your
in my
clients.
mind, I'm sitting here because as a real estate agent, I come across seniors,
Right.
and like they can't even do the contract over the computer. You gotta drive 45 minutes one way. But so are you a service that like if we come across, someone that's a client of ours and we're kind of noticing some things,
Yeah.
things that we learned from you that we can direct them to you? Like,
Correct.
are you the middle person between the person and what options are available?
Exactly.
Okay, because I wasn't real clear on that. Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of coming towards the end, but I'll go ahead and go to that now. So basically what I do is we already have a list, we have a database that has all of the communities in the
Okay.
city.
Okay.
So we already know the places, where they are, what they charge, what they're capable of doing. If they're not able to handle incontinence, we can tell you, we're not gonna look at this. Or if you have places that won't deal with wound care, or they won't deal with catheters, full catheters, that's a huge one. A lot of times they have to go into skilled nursing,
Got it.
otherwise known as nursing home. So we're able to help, kind of figure that out, find the best place for them. My goal is always to make sure they're going into a place that's going to meet their personal needs, their social needs,
Right.
their financial picture, and their medical picture. So we want to make sure that they're going into the exact right place that's going to be fit for them. I'm not going to lie, there's times when people decide they don't like the place, what their biggest complaint is?
But
Food.
I'm
living this, so
Yeah, I know, right? Food is what they always complain about, it doesn't matter how good it is. It's because they don't want to be where they're at.
Sure.
They do.
Yeah.
They do use that.
You look at the prices. I know that the neighbor who have, worked for 45 years, paid off their house, and now they're in a situation where somebody's trying to go into a medical facility, and they're asking her to sign over her house.
No.
So, like.
That's probably what we call.
Why is that happening, and how
So-
are we protecting them from that?
CCRCs, which is, they're places that have everything. They have independent, assisted memory care, and a lot of times they have skilled nursing hospice.
Right.
And they're wanting to do that because they're wanting to get a hold of your assets, because that's how you're gonna pay for it.
Right.
You don't have to do that, but they do need to sell the house. Because that's their retirement.
Right.
That's the money that they're gonna have to use. I'm running into that with a person right now.
Right, it's heartbreaking.
It
They don't
is.
wanna use their homes. They wanna use their homes.
Well, they don't
Their
understand.
family members,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanna know how I can help that situation. Like, what can we do as a support as a senior in those situations?
Well, the biggest thing is to listen to them. Let them talk and make suggestions. I mean, the thing that's hardest probably is getting them to make the idea theirs. So if you've got an idea for her, you want her to make it her idea so that she buys into it. Does that make sense?
I'm living that now. With my mom, saying, you should be in a community where you have friends.
Uh-huh.
And went from a year of I can't eat, she has a fish pond in the back. I can't eat my fish, I can't, for whatever reason, till a month ago, she's like,
Yeah.
but that took a year.
It's always best to let them make the decision on their own.
I work with a lot of clients that are, situation where they absolutely have to get long-term care. So when
So this is something with Medicaid, and this is something that attorneys like to say because they do not know how a lot of these options work. They like to say you need to sell everything and you need to spend down on Medicaid. No. And I'll tell you why. Because, depending upon the place, look back is between 2 to 5 years. It's usually about running 2 to 3 years right now with most places. Brookdale, Traditions, places like that. Well, it depends on the facility, but they do a 5-year look back on Medicaid, right? Yeah, so God, you gotta be careful with that because they can't give money away. What they'll do is they sell a house, they want to give money to their kids, say, here, have this, spend that, can't do it. Cannot do it.
Never enough.
Yes, yeah, they'll come and take money, or they will penalize them and they will not be able to get into a community until
So my
they're
question
able
is
to.
like, when they enter, they have to have, they say they're paying $5,000, do they have to have enough of that money for the next year, 2 years, 5 years to prove that they can go in there? And if they don't, then that's when they hand over their house.
To prove they can go into, they shouldn't have to do
Or
that.
to prove that they can afford the payment of the facility that they're in.
Okay, I would tell you, it depends on the community. Okay, some communities that are, especially the higher end ones, they want to know all of your financial information. I'm never comfortable with that. I'm never comfortable with that. But that's what these CCRCs do. Is they want to know how long that they can keep you in their community and keep you from moving or doing whatever. And then, places, like Otterbein, they won't take you in independent or in assisted or memory care. They will only take you if you started it independently first.
You gotta work your way into it.
Yeah, you gotta work your way into it. So that's what they do, is to suck everybody, to get everybody to come in there and be a part of that. But yeah, I mean, if somebody's gonna be on Medicaid, or if there's a chance that, they're gonna run out of money, the big thing is to make sure that their money will last at least as long as the Medicaid look back.
So do you do bidding?
That's a big one.
Pictures too? I mean, I'm sure you have a list of everybody, but you don't use it. As far as different.
No.
Like, are you waiting then to see that they're,
We have a very tight knit group.
okay,
And if there's a place that's not doing too well, they're having a change in management, things seem to be going awry. If somebody wants to look at them, we'll tell them, okay, you can go look at them, but we can't tell them not to go there, but we can say, I'm gonna suggest you ask these questions and this information and pay attention to these things. My biggest thing is when I walk into a place is all the staff communicating with the residents? Are they kind to them? Do they talk to them? Or do they just go grab the wheelchair and move up? Should never, ever, ever do that. Whenever somebody's in a wheelchair, the person who's going to push them should get in front of them, let them see who's pushing them, and then take them. There's little things like that that make a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it shouldn't have to be that way. It's all in the places that you go. It's all in the communities.
So do you charge a fee to the family who's looking for a place? Is that how the system works?
That's a good question. So we work on a referral basis.
Okay.
So basically, for the most part, our business model is to not charge the towns at all. We get a referral fee from the community. But in the case of if they're on Medicaid, then we do ask for a fee up front because it's very time consuming. As you know, to make all the phone calls and to, find places that have availability and, who will take a Medicaid waiver, who will not. Will they handle this issue that's going on right now? There's so much that's going into it. And, the good thing about us is that we can just take that off our hands.
Sometimes a patient is taken from a hospital visit, right? They're told they have to go to skilled nursing. And at that point, I think the biggest issue would be, of course, possibly selling the house, but also downsizing. The client is just, having been through this, my mom went through 3 different downsizes, independent, assistant, now it's skilled. And each time, where's my painting? She thinks all of her stuff is in my basement. And I had to get rid of the majority of it. It was a 2-bedroom condo. But I keep telling her, yeah, I have that, because I know she'll never use it.
That's
good. But how do we help people downsize? I know one realtor that I've worked with has an agency she refers people to. But are there enough places to help people determine what they can take to a downsize or what's valuable or what their options are? Because kids, I didn't want this crap. No offense to anyone. My mom had labels on everything. What was to go to my brother and what was to go to me. She had stickers. And every time I went to visit her, I would change the stickers to my brother's. Well, because I didn't want any of it.
This is, well, if you're in that kind of a situation, and especially if it's a client, you could say, you know what, if your mom wants to give this to you, take it.
Yeah.
What you do with it is up to you. If you want to take it to donation, whatever, just take it because it takes it off her mind.
Yeah.
So with downsizing, what I've always done, and because we, a lot of us have resources of junk haul removers or of transitional folks that can come in and sort through everything. I always tell them, take what you really want. Put a label on it, put a sticky note on it, what you really want, and then don't worry about the rest. We'll take care of it.
Do you have a list of organizations that you work with that you refer seniors to help with this? Okay, that's primary.
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have people that you work with that help move them from?
Yes.
location?
Okay.
Yeah, I have movers that specialize in just moving seniors. That's all they do is move seniors.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes. Myself, actually, I am, but that's a completely backdoor separate thing for me. So I don't talk about being a realtor because that's just something for my clients. If they need me to do something for them, I'll do that. But anybody who comes to me, then,
And for clarification, I was calling a list of people. I called her one day and we struck up a conversation and she led with this. This is what she does. And so after having conversations with you and a couple of other agents, that's what led us to this.
Yeah.
So that's how we got here.
Yeah.
As agents, we have to be very careful about legal,
Right.
not giving legal advice. As a daughter, POA, I can do that more or less.
Right.
Do you have attorneys that you work with?
I do.
Oh, I love you. Where were you 7 years ago?
say that. Where were you?
I do have some attorneys that I do refer to.
Okay, senior specials.
They're called elder
Elder
attorneys.
attorneys,
Yeah. So they specialize in everything, trusts, wills, getting through all of that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have big lists. Any other questions on that part?
I have 4 or 5 people that are gonna be calling you,
Awesome, we'll love that.
Well, also like independent living, other than communities, if someone's in a 4-bedroom house, they're living alone, or it's husband and wife, and they want to go smaller. My husband and I actually have been looking to get out of, the home we raised our kids in.
Mhm.
Ranch homes, the expense of like a community like a Bailey Place or something like that. We don't have a lot of stock, I don't think, to help people, or at least not a lot of stock that wouldn't need a lot of work. Do you have options that, like, there's not a lot of ranch homes out there that don't need a lot of work. First floor bedrooms are becoming a little bit more of a builder thing, first floor primaries. But
There's a lot, I know up north around Liberty Township, there's been some patio homes, things that are starting to be built. This is the market.
Yeah.
This is where the market is for realtors. And, I talked to somebody that she was our broker manager, and she went to go work for Drees Homes. And, I'll just make I'll throw a suggestion. So, you know what, we're not seeing enough help for these elderly people. And this is a huge market.
Right.
And even after they're done, there are smaller families or single people who would love to have a 2-bedroom, 2-bath patio home.
Sure.
There's no stairs.
Yeah.
So, they're very hard to come by. But yeah, there's a lot that's hard to find. I had a couple that moved out of condominiums that they lived in. They downsized into a condo and went to an assisted living because they were both having some issues and needed help. And the stairs were very shallow, so it's easy to get up and down them, but it was just still too hard. And the people who bought it were a young family, so it worked out perfectly. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Are there enough facilities for seniors in our area, in this area?
That's something that's been brought up with Cincinnati City Council and in the general area of Cincinnati.
The need.
The needs are great, and it's not just that, it's affordable housing.
Right.
Is what they're running into. And a lot of them are trying to find apartments that they can subsidize for seniors to, provide a cheaper rent, all income based, on what they're making, through Social Security and all that. With Social Security, they just went through a big thing where a lot of people got a chunk of money because either they or their spouse were part of the program, like a state education program or something, retirement. And they're all of a sudden getting an increase in their monthly payments. I've got a lady that I'm working with right now. Her husband passed away, but she was still getting his money. And she only was getting like $300 a month from Social Security. She went from $300 to $6,600 a month.
Wow.
She's freaking out. She has dementia. She's not sure. Every month this money comes in, she doesn't know where it's coming from.
Oh.
She's like, somebody's going to take this from me. I'm going to get in trouble. She's just got this mentality around it. And for her, it's a great thing. If I could just get her to sell her house, and she needs to go into it. She needs to be the
Right.
but she just absolutely refuses. So, yeah,
It's tough.
it's very tough.
Sounds to me like these are conversations we need to be having with people before there's an issue.
Yes, if you notice that you have a client that's elderly and having some memory issues or especially, if they need to sign paperwork and you're just, I had this with my client, she didn't understand what she was signing.
Yep.
And of course, then she didn't remember what she was signing. It's important to have somebody, an attorney or somebody who's willing to sit down with her and explain everything.
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking, take half a day. And make sure they understand what's going on, they understand how much they're getting. You're selling the house, you're selling the house to this person. This is the commission that's being paid or whatever the case is, to help them really understand it. Because there's so many times they come out of that going, what just happened?
Yeah. My mom was living in Florida. She got talked into doing a Lady Bird deed with me on it.
Um,
And that's really only helpful if the person who's on the deed makes that their primary residence, which I had no
Yeah.
intention of doing. She thought she was protecting the house, and we ended up having to sell it to help pay the nursing bills. So, she went in and thought she was doing a great thing. I don't know who the lawyer or whatever it was at the time that told her, oh, this will protect the house. And we don't have those in Ohio, do we? Lady Bird?
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
no, I don't think we do.
I don't think so. But yeah, so even though we can't advise legally, we can have them sit down with lawyers who know their stuff.
Right.
I gotta tell you how important that is. That was a
Very
$300,000 loss.
I know.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think when people are older, it's best to get an attorney involved, to make sure that everything is legal. And make sure they're not getting scammed somewhere along the way, because that's becoming so prevalent. So very prevalent. Somebody makes one phone call, they know they're selling their house, they can make some kind of deal with them without their realtor, and then all of a sudden they have no house.
I
And
didn't think about that. If you've got a listing and.
And reverse mortgages.
yeah, I think it's, reverse mortgages are a whole other beast upon themselves. So, yeah, there's a lot to think about. A reverse mortgage can be a good thing if nobody cares about getting the house and cares about the money. Because that can provide money to help take care of them, but somebody still has to live in the house. The second that person does not live in that house, they can take the house before you sell it. But you can sell it before you take it. So you just have to be quick. Yeah.
There really should be.
It's a disgrace. Yeah, it really is a disgrace in this country.
Well, it is, and there's places, and I'm kind of gonna do this. Online and on TV, you get companies that call themselves placement agents.
Yeah.
Like
A place for mom, don't you? Yep.
Oh,
And-
interesting. Three of you that have
Yes.
experience.
Oh, my
with just
God.
And
the
that
same thing.
place is, they're predatory. And there's a lot of predatory companies like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's even facilities that we've been in, when we walk in, and it looks like bells and whistles on the outside.
Yeah.
But once the person's gone into that facility, you really see what's going on.
Well,
That's,
you have to know the questions to ask, you have to know the things to look for. And having a placement agent, whether it's me or somebody else, and there's a lot of them in town, is to have us help you navigate that, because we're gonna have a list of questions to ask. We're gonna have our eyes on everything to know what's going on. Who's doing what? Are they taking care of these residents? Are they being good to the people?
Are they planning to sell? That was where I got nailed.
Yeah, are they planning to sell it? I know, that's the thing that's really hard to find out.
Yeah, they won't tell you. 'Cause
No.
my mom is in a place that was owned by a religious order, and it was stunning, good care, and it was sold a year and a half ago to a corporation in New York that traditionally doesn't believe in vaccines and just other things, and the care is terrible now, and she really doesn't want to move just because she's 93. And we keep being told, oh, it's because it's a nursing shortage. We can't get aides, we can't get nurses. It's,
Well, there is.
what do you, how do you solve?
I'm there constantly, staying on top of them, asking, writing the director. And when they know you're watching, it helps a little, but there's so many people around her that don't have anybody. A lot of
Right.
Medicaid beds, I think, too.
And if you find things happening, then the best thing to do is to call APS, which is Adult Protective
Yes.
Services. And there's also somebody called an ombudsman,
It's,
which is a state person. And if there's something happening to your loved one, they have to be in that community when you file a complaint. Or if you see it on, with somebody else, you contact them and let them know, I just witnessed this happening. I'm really worried about this person and what's happening at this community.
sadly, if you're private pay, you have a little more leverage.
Yeah,
If I call the director and say, what the heck, we're still private pay. I don't know how long we will be. Once we're Medicaid, I doubt we'll have
You
any
don't have
leverage.
control.
I doubt.
Then what happens is Medicaid, so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's in a rabbit hole. that you-
It's a scheme. It's a.
Oh,
it is, but there's places that are good. And, you know, we try to stay on top of that.
Yes.
I really like it seems like a newer model to me, but the Barrington,
Right.
which is, if you go in, IL, and then, if something happens, you stay in that same room, and they actually adjust your apartment
Oh,
to
cool.
whatever condition you want.
Yeah, they'll turn it over to what, so if you're, there's not very many of those here right now.
That's my question.
Right, there's not a lot of them. There's, we had that happen in Colorado, so everybody started doing this model.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
Well, it's less, so what they do is they go in as IL, as independent living. And then as their care needs become greater, they don't have to move to an assisted living apartment. They can stay in the same apartment. They just adjust their care needs and they bring care to them.
It's kind of like good for their pride and everything. but-
Sure.
Well, and mentally, the thought of moving is
Yeah.
already difficult.
So, this is a personal one. I'm trying to find something like that for my mother. It's like getting up memory care, but hopefully that's something for a point that can be fixed. But she also doesn't own a home. We're in the process of getting her Medicaid. Barrington's pretty expensive, so I don't know if there's options.
Give me a call, because I can check into that.
Doesn't every facility have to have a certain number of Medicaid beds available?
Not every facility does. No.
Really?
No, they don't have to do anything. There, you just happen to have a few that, traditions that Deerfield do. So with memory care, everything depends on your mom's condition. So if she gets to the point where she starts sundown and she starts wondering, they're gonna want her to be in the locked side of the building.
Well, this maybe came out. There is healing of dementia, but she's also taking 21 pills a day. So we're trying to weed her down on that to see if there's clarity from that, but
That happens all the time. There are people, I don't know who's here that does that. There are pharmacists or people that can go through the meds, see what's counteracting each other. And I think sometimes sitting with a pharmacist and asking them those questions.
That's what I
we have a
would do.
nurse practitioner,
Yeah.
we work with, and the psychiatrist that
Yeah.
specializes in that, so between the two.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's so important. That's so important.
As a boomer, I'm frightened. I am
I mean,
frightened
would you
about
not
my
be?
future, you know, where am I headed, you know?
Right?
Right, exactly.
That was what my mom was doing in one fall.
Yeah.
She was driving and living alone at 89. And yeah, COVID, she took a fall.
Well, you know, when you have memory care or memory issues that need to be dealt with, you know, you do have memory care communities. Something to also know is that there's communities, there's also what we call boarding care homes.
What are they?
Boarding care homes. So what they do specifically is they're smaller. They can't be more than 16 people in a home. Yeah. There's a place called Beehive. It's starting to kind of pop up where they're franchised. And there's one up in the township, which is really nice. But what they do is that they provide care there. Now, they typically will do either assisted living or memory care. They'll do one or the other. They don't always do both, but they will commingle.
Yeah.
And there's one company, Optimum, that has several homes all over, down Anderson, up in Loveland, up in Lebanon. And they'll have several homes, and they'll move the people between the homes depending upon what's going on with them, because memory care obviously needs a lot more attention to assisted living. But there are options like that. I like the home board care home because the number of caregivers to the number of residents is typically a lot better.
Isn't that kind of the UK European model?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Aunt in Ireland had
We do
that.
that.
Yeah. Do you? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But in this country, now what's a cost for a facility? like that?
So a place like that, they're typically all inclusive care. Sometimes they'll charge you extra for, if they're incontinent, they'll charge extra for, incontinent stuff or, there's wound care, some have to go a little more of that, but they're running between $6,000 to $10,000 a month.
Do
But
they take Medicaid?
some of them do, some of them do carry a couple of Medicaid beds to the homes.
That's a really good option to mention to a client.
That's so high, like
It is.
$60,000 a month.
I write the check. It
What
kills
average
me.
person can pay that?
Well, that's the thing, is a lot can't.
That's the house.
And that's the whole thing about planning. So, for all of us that are at that age, we're starting to go, well, we need to think about something. And now the companies, the insurance companies are kind of limiting. There were some of them that offered plans that were, infinite. They're not doing it.
That's interesting. All of my parents have some kind of nursing home insurance.
And it's
And
limited.
they got
Long-term
years
care.
ago.
Mine is
Yeah.
limited. I just got mine a few years ago. It's limited.
Years ago. I mean, I think we talked about this 10 years ago. They're 75. So they've been at it for a minute.
It's good to call those companies and get the paperwork and understand what that looks like. Because long-term care insurance, there's certain provisions. Some of them will pay out a little bit if there's home care, but it won't be much. It'll be like $30, $40, $50 a day. Where home care, it's gonna take her 2 hours, 1 or 2 hours. So, they'll give you a little bit, and then once somebody goes into your community, then they start paying the full. And a lot of times that money more than covers
Interesting.
the monthly. So understanding what the daily payout is, and, if you look at a community, what could that look like for them? How much would that cover? Because
Right.
it typically has to cover a place that provides some kind of.
Now's the time to put the
I was
house in
gonna
your name.
say, at what age, let's just say you're talking to a client who is 50 and her parents are 70. Well, forget the parents. I'm 50, let's say. At what point do you recommend that any of us start considering, like,
50.
Now,
seriously?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Shit.
and if they can put the house in your siblings' names now, then you might.
Well, you want to be
5
careful
years
with that. There's
back.
reasons why you do not want to put the house in the name of the person.
Yeah.
When it comes to all of that, talk to a lawyer because there's a lot of tax implications around that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trust.
I can't recommend anything because that's a legal question.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
But I would say, there are elder attorneys out there that, I haven't found one here yet. I have them all over Colorado, but, that sometimes will give you like a 30-minute free consultation to ask a lot of questions.
Hmm.
And I think Dan will do that.
Okay.
So, and there's a lot of them that will have, seminars on those kinds of things. So I would highly recommend actually probably asking one of them to come in.
Okay.
And do that, because they're a combination of attorney and financial.
Okay.
That would be
Will do.
great.
That'll
And we
be our
can't
next one.
recommend, but the fact that we can be familiar and say,
Sure.
you can talk to an attorney, there are some options out there that can help protect some of your assets. That would be encouraging to a senior who's thinking about moving and scared about it.
Well, and especially if you have a couple. And one person needs to go to memory care and the other person is fine.
For sure. Yeah.
Run into that all of.
Oh my gosh, that's heartbreaking. Correct.
Yeah, it's common.
Yeah.
It's
Of
common,
course.
but
Well, one cares for the other, the one that's
Sure.
the caregiver is ill.
They don't get to
and
see each
then
other.
it's has
yeah, you gotta
be-
save money for both. And, sometimes that includes them having to get a divorce, a legal divorce.
Yeah.
To separate those funds.
Or just if they were both
It's-
widowed,
it's- hey,
not living, not getting married again for that
Can
reason.
you imagine being married 70 years and then all of a sudden being told you have to get a divorce? in order for you to get medical care? That's insane.
Yeah, it happens.
Absolutely insane. I'm so glad you're here today.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
Big
yeah.
issue.
Would you consider coming back? Sure. I just put you on the spot in front of everybody. So you had to say-
Yeah, if we need to tailor it to more, more stuff, because I know that there's always questions about when you're talking to one of your clients, how do you know if there's an issue and how do you deal with it?
Sure.
Especially if you think that a client is being coerced into selling their house by
Yeah.
by one of their kids or by a sibling. Yeah, right. There's a lot of different things to approach with working with seniors. And anybody who's SRES, if you've gone through the training, yeah, I've gone through the training.
I'm not, but that's my goal. Once I.
Yeah, they'll talk a lot about a lot of what I talked about. In fact, when I did the class, I actually was teaching them some stuff because of where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like, oh, actually got a little bit, let's take that 2 steps further, and look at that. So yeah.
I'd love to do that.
And I have resources too that I can bring, when I hit certain subjects or whatever, then we can.
How do we support you? Because you spent your time here today with us. How do we support you?
Just contact me if you have questions. I'm happy to be a resource, at any time. But if you get to a point where you have a client or you have a loved one that needs some help, they need to kind of know what to do, just to have the discussion. We can do that. And I also do have somebody, one of the owners, he actually does a program called Beyond Driving with Dignity. And if you have a loved one who's driving, it should not be. We don't tell them they can't drive, but we have them take a memory test, we have them do some tools, and we show them some things to talk through it to hopefully get them to make their own decision.
Perfect. That goes right back to what you originally said. You want to help them get to the decision.
And I think that actually, I got to talk to Mark. I think they're trying to get it approved as a CE too.
Oh, wow.
So
All day long.
I need to find out about that.
That'd be great.
But because I know that they're doing CEs for nurses, that it is a CE for the nurses and the doctors. So, but I do need to find out if they managed to get a CE for the real estate side. So yeah, there's a lot. And okay with that? Is your mind about ready to explode? Go, oh my God, that's too much.
It is a lot.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to just have a conversation with you. Just, give me a call, text me, say, hey, do you have time to chat, today or tomorrow or something, set up a time with me. It's best to schedule time with me. And then I'm happy to just talk you through some stuff. If it means reiterating some of what we talked about today, happy to do it. Happy to, kind of even give you some ideas of things that you can do to kind of help your parents, if, or your client or whoever, if there's something that needs to happen, what does that need to look like? Or what can you do to kind of help that along? I'm happy to be a resource for anybody.
Awesome. Thank
Was this helpful, you guys?
Thank you for
Was this
coming.
good information?
I wish more people had it,
Yeah, well, this isn't the one and only time that we're gonna have these conversations. One of the things that we're definitely trying, or not just trying, but we're definitely doing in this market center is making sure that we're talking about more than just how to do a listing presentation, right? Because we all have lives and our clients have lives, so there are other things we can talk about. So I truly appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
I do.
Absolutely.
Can you guys hear from us? Here to share.
Yeah, I want some more.
Is that the same number that's on the bottom?
Thank you.
No, it is not.
Oh, that's good to know. We're my Colorado number.
Here's the button.
Yeah, we'd love to have you guys. So maybe we could kind
Oh,
of.
did you really?
No.
I can't imagine that any of us who would be dealing with even taking a listing or helping a buyer wouldn't be working with someone who isn't touched by this. Whether it's kids buying a house and their parents are, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And I told you, you guys were the only ones that knew what the SRES appellation was. And I was like, Oh, this is possible in a city like this.
I know, that is kind of sad that we're the only office doing that. That is crazy. And then also, you know, pat on the back for us because, like I said, it really is about. Our lives are a lot bigger than just
Well,
something.
And Missy has the person in her office. Who does the downstairs. She's got someone there who goes to space, you know. My mom's in Margaret Falls.
Oh, yeah.
Used to be great.
Yeah, that's super.
But after they got.
Yeah, they got so they sold to a company, cares for, owns a number of places in Ohio. Yeah. The owners are part of a Hasidic Jewish community in upstate New York. Totally over.
Oh, wow.
And,
Their perspective is a little different.
it's very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom went there because she was at Twin Towers originally, didn't like it.
Oh,
You
yeah.
guys, we have lunch too. We have food and then our addendums class.
Wanted to go
It's
here
a full
for the
day,
release.
so if you guys want food, there's some out there.
My sister living in Florida. Oh.